So here we are today, this beautiful afternoon in Tel Aviv and in Israel, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all back to the Life Sciences Today podcast. This time, I'm excited to host Dr. Mati Gill, who is the CEO of AION Labs. It's a venture studio with some amazing pharma companies and some amazing founders and scientists behind it. And I think Mati's background is unique. He started out at Teva. Now he's in venture and doing a lot of amazing things. And we'll talk about why the AION Venture Studio model is unique. We'll talk about how we're going to help patients maybe a little bit, and how maybe we'll make money. So let's start off with Mati. Mati, welcome to the podcast. It's my pleasure. How did you get into this journey? Tell me about that a bit.
First of all, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. I think you got everything correct, besides the fact that I'm not a doctor, don't have a PhD, at least not yet. My Jewish parents are probably a little disappointed in me in that aspect, but I actually got into biotech because in my mission, I've always had three core things to my development. Number one is, as someone that was born in the United States and has chosen to live in Israel pretty much ever since, Israel is very core, and building up a family here is the second thing, is having a family and building it in Israel are two core pillars of mine. And as far as my career development, I've always sought to work in spaces either in public service, where I spent a little over a decade, or in service of a greater good of serving a cause that I could believe in. And in biotech and building up an industry in Israel, I kind of found my way into that industry in the private sector. And that
Amazing. That's amazing. AION Labs has a really powerful list of founding partners, companies like Pfizer and AWS. And what's the core problem you're trying to solve here? And how do you go about it differently from other incubators?
Sure. So the way we approach things is basically addressing three core problems. And hopefully I'll be able to structure this without taking too much time. Number one is the core business problem that we are addressing is an industry-wide problem that in drug discovery and development, we all know that we are a very inefficient industry, in that we fail close to 95% of the times that we decide to discover and develop a new drug, we actually don't bring it to market and doesn't receive FDA approval. That drives very long timelines and a lot of costs to the industry that ultimately then is costs for providers as well as for patients. And the opportunity here is to bring in technology to be able to predict the capability to discover, to bring in new insights into the way diseases work, discover new drugs, and then to be able to bring more drugs to market. And that's the business problem that AION Labs is trying to solve, by trying to connect capabilities on the technology side with the life sciences side. Now, the reason why, and this goes to the second core problem, the reason why we decided to work in a venture studio model is because we chose to build this in Israel, where there's great life sciences and great technology, but there hasn't yet been an industry up until now. So we said we need to create our own deal flow in a systematic mechanism so that we can connect the industry unmet needs with the great technology and research and science that Israel offers. And third is that we needed to connect them with the global expertise of the ultimate end customers. And that's where bringing in Pfizer that you mentioned, AstraZeneca, Merck KGaA out of Germany, Teva, Israel's flagship company, full stop, and definitely the biggest in life sciences, together with Amazon, Amiti and IBF, our two venture partners on the venture capital side. With the support of the Israeli Innovation Authority, we brought together this great group of partners to work in a model that we adapted from our strategic partners, Biomedics, to be able to build new companies that connect tech with bio, with great scientist founders, and hopefully do some amazing things for patients.
Well, I think it's unique. And so what's your playbook? you have like a great team on the demand side, companies like Pfizer and Teva and Astra, but you must have an interesting playbook to decide
Yeah.
what kind of scientists, founders you want, and you believe you'll make a good bet on.
Yeah. So our playbook is very structured, actually. It's actually very methodological. Sorry, which is typical of me as an Israeli because we don't usually work that way. So here again, we're trying to bring in best practices from the global industry and systematic working with the groundbreaking type of take no holds barred Israeli entrepreneurial mindset and without disrupting either of those sides. We want to preserve the best of both sides, but then combine them. So we work in a very structured playbook that we build a startup that has three core components. Number one, that it's addressing a big unmet need that's validated, and we could talk about what makes a good challenge, but we define a good challenge. We define how we're going to test out the technology that will address that challenge. And we make sure that a startup that we're building or investing in is addressing a big unmet need. That's number one. Number two is that we have found the best potential team of scientists, founders with a great groundbreaking technology that can win in the space and develop a solution for that space. And number three is that we, as AION Labs, are the right place for that startup to be built and to grow, because that means we're bringing in the unique added value that we can support them for their success with the partners, with the pharma commitment, with the R&D champions that are willing to work with those startups to help them to reach a point of validation and develop their technology so ultimately they can grow, and with very strict management so that we're making sure that they are reaching their milestones. And if they don't, then we have to have tough decisions with the startups.
Sure, I understand. So I mean, it's I appreciate that structure, and I know that VCs, and you probably do also. VCs have like they have mental models for things. And, there are VCs like I do crypto, but I only do early stage crypto, or I only do late stage crypto. I do supply chain, but only late stage supply chain, not early stage supply chain. So, I think investors very much use these mental shortcuts to do things. I'm not saying this is a shortcut. I'm saying it's a good thing because that way you can make better decisions, I think. But so what kind of verticals do you like? What kind of indications do you like? And can you give me an example?
Yeah, sure. So, we try to, I wouldn't necessarily say that, I wouldn't phrase it the way you did, although I liked it, but, our key, our key methodology in that aspect is focus. So we're very focused. Focus and expertise is that our focus and our expertise is in technology for drug discovery and development. So any type of artificial intelligence tools, machine learning tools, computational biology, computational chemistry in the future, probably quantum as well, quantum computing, any
Sure.
type of connectivity between a platform technology, a computational technology that connects with bio, that connects with chemistry, biology, and the way we discover and develop new drugs. Because as an industry, we've been working the same way for decades of how we understand diseases, discover new drugs, and then develop them. And as we discussed before, it's very inefficient. So technology and the access to data and artificial intelligence tools can really disrupt that in that aspect. Um, the way that we do that is by really focusing on the early stage, building the startups right from the beginning. And just to give you an example, is connecting an unmet need with cutting edge technology is a company called Denovi, where basically our pharma partners said that we are basically in developing new antibodies, only touching the tip of the iceberg with regards to the amount of diseases that we can address with an antibody, and that there are many other target mechanisms and diseases out there that we can discover new drugs for and develop an antibody for, and do it also in a much more precise and much more effective manner than the way that we're doing that already. So they came to us with this unmet need, with this challenge, And we ran a process and ultimately found Dr. Kashif Sadiq, who was a senior scientist at Embol, not from Israel. And he presented his technology, won our challenge in a competitive process, highly competitive process. And we made a pre-seed investment in him that then was invested in thereafter by Amiti Ventures, one of our partners who's joined, wasn't one of our founding partners, but joined a couple of years later as part of this investment as well, our partnership, and seeded the company. And they've already developed technologies that they're currently in validation processes to prove that their technology can actually do design of de novo proteins and antibodies that can then be used for the industry and develop their own pipeline.
So that's really very significant because you're going actually from the demand side to the supply side.
Correct.
Most startups start with supply side. They say, well, we have a way to, I don't know, to deliver stuff much faster with drones, but it's a special way, or we have a way to predict weather a month in the future instead of 10 days in the future and do it at half the cost or something like that. So you're coming from the demand side. And that's, I think, if I understand properly, that's what makes you special.
Correct.
Do you have some examples of, some success stories? De Novo, I think, is certainly a success story, but, companies that have already, that are already like, selling their technology to people besides your partners?
So, we're just about 3 years old, right? So, and it takes about a year to build your first startup once you starting it.
At
So,
least, at least, at
yeah,
least.
at least a year. So actually having commercial, regulatory approved products, not yet, but in the process of getting there. We have another company called Promise Bio that we seeded out of the Weizmann Institute together in an investment that was actually led by a great VC firm, Israeli Canadian VC called OZ, AWZ, and they led the round and we followed in that aspect. And Promise Bio, we started them out with a $3 million investment. They've since raised another 6. They're already contracting with additional pharma companies as well as with hospitals to run data sets. They do proteomics studying, so it came from the lab of Yifat Marble, who's a professor here at the Weizmann Institute that really can do protein degradation and understand new disease insights so that we can do precision medicine and as well as diagnostics in a much more precise manner. And this tool can really help pharma companies as well as clinicians actually conduct a prognosis and new disease in a much more precise manner in that aspect.
So maybe you can't talk about this, but did Pfizer and Astra already sign up for this technology?
Yes.
They did. That's great. That means,
Yes.
that means that they're putting their money where their mouth is.
Correct.
That's the best, I think.
Yes.
Um, so you have this very unique model. You're driving from the demand side and innovation. Um, but drug discovery and targeting is still really far away from the patient. How do you keep focus on the patient, doing things that will help patients who need it the most?
So it's an interesting question. And let's talk about our health tech industry for a sec. In that we have the fortune, and it's not by chance I chose to work in this industry and continue to. But we have the fortune in this industry is that whenever, and by definition, whenever we are successful financially and business from a business aspect in what we do, we are by definition bringing value to patients. There is nothing I can do as AION Labs or within the health tech industry that will drive business returns that is not also bringing value to patients. And this is a very hard industry to succeed in. Biotech in general, especially connecting tech with bio and building startups and doing it in Israel of all places. So this is a very hard industry to succeed in. So it attracts truly crazy good mensches and good people, right?
I like that.
And mission-driven people, people that always want to serve a greater purpose than their own. There's other ways you can make a lot of money. People that are attracted to the health tech, to the life sciences industry, are truly science fanatics, want to solve big problems, and want to create tremendous impact. And so, to answer your question, I believe that everything we do, we want to see that we're leaving a good positive input and imprint into the world. I personally came into the innovation world in the biotech industry because I saw what a new drug could do for patients. My mother-in-law was saved by a clinical trial, and the first clinical trial of its kind for its indication that was in Israel for a new type of drugs that was an autoimmune drug for cancer. And she was already diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. She had already been given a whole round of chemo that was very effective, and then it came back. And the physicians were able to get her into a clinical trial for her indication. Again, the first one that was run for her indication in Israel, and it saved her life. And she had already been given 6 months to a year to live by the doctors. And this was 9 years ago. And she is still in good health, and she has been able to help us raise our kids and seeing her grandkids, grow up and be able to enjoy their time. So we see firsthand what our innovation can actually do for patients. And that attracts us to do what we do and to work in this crazy industry where the chances of success are very low. But when you are, you're not only reaping tremendous financial rewards, but you're also doing good by definition. And it is the only industry that by definition you could say that about. There's no other industry in the world that by definition, when you do good, you're doing well, or when you're doing well, you're doing good.
I love that, and that personal story is so beautiful. And please God, it's so good to hear that. And I hear that I've been involved in over 70 clinical trials in my previous company, and I hear that personally. I can't say that I've been there, but I know that I know so many people that tell that story. And it's such a powerful motivator for innovator to say, listen, I went through that, my parents went through that, or my brother or mother or father went through that. This is what I'm going to do. And like you say, you have to be totally crazy to want to do it.
Yeah.
Well, but Israelis are certifiably crazy. So we're in the best place in the world for that,
That's
aren't
true. That's true. In the
we?
best way possible.
Exactly. Let's go to the moon. Um, I think scientists founders often struggle with this shift from research from the lab to business. Um, how do you support them from founder mode? There is this kind of mode called founder mode where you're totally into it, but you don't necessarily think about exactly how much margin you can make, who your partners are, who are really good partners, who are not so good partners. So how do you help founders make that shift, that transition, that really steep phase transition from science to capturing value back for their company?
Sure. So, first of all, we invest in very smart and capable people. So, yes, they might be scientist founders that are not coming with a business acumen, but they're very smart, very curious people that usually are very adaptive to learning new skill sets, new traits, and new disciplines in that aspect. So, when you actually start to teach them the business aspects, they're very hungry to learn it, and they're very eager to learn it, and they usually pick it up pretty quickly. And you need good storytellers, and the better storytellers are the ones that come from within the science with a deep scientific connection to what they're doing in that aspect. So that's number one. Number two is we at AION Labs provide our startups and our founders with all the support that they could possibly need around them, of advisors, industry experts, business development experts, business model experts, both from our team, from our group of consultants and advisors, as well as from our partners, And we tell our founders, we say, we will provide you with all the support. Some of you will need more administrative or financial support. Some of you will need support building your teams. Others will need the support raising capital, building up your pitch deck, or deciding on your business model and then going and executing on it and opening doors and knocking them down where needed. We will provide you with all that support. Ultimately, as a founder, you need to lead it and you need to own it, but we'll provide you with all the support for that. And what we tell them is you focus on the science, because that's what we're not replacing. We can help you on that, but you need to focus on the tech and the science. We'll provide you with all that support so you can focus on your tech and science in that aspect.
Well, it sounds amazing.
Thank you. Are you coming to found a startup with us or no?
Of course I will.
Okay, come.
Where is it?
So we're in Rehovot. We're based in Rehovot, which is basically, if you think about it in American terms, it's a suburb of Tel Aviv, about 15 kilometers from Tel Aviv, right across the street from the Weizmann Institute, one of the best scientific research institutes in the world. We have actually an open opportunity for anyone listening that wants to build a startup with us. Our next startup will be built to address a big challenge in the industry of how do we use generative AI models in order to address target combinations. So basically one drug for multiple targets. And that is something that, as we understand, diseases are more and more complex. And the way to treat complex diseases is not by just one drug for one target or one drug for one mechanism, but actually having a drug for multiple mechanisms. So here, anyone that has an idea in how to solve that challenge can visit our website, can look us up on LinkedIn. It's AION Labs, very easy. You can look me up personally as well. You'll see it right there. You can reach out to us. Anyone that wants to build a startup that can address that is welcome to reach out to us and apply for that.
Well,
and you're welcome as well.
Oh, well, I don't know if I have any ideas about multiple targeting with Gen AI because that's, but yeah, I'm definitely coming to visit. So we'll find some time to come down to Rehovot and visit.
Excellent.
For sure. Final question.
Sure.
5 years, it's kind of like an interview question. Like they always ask you these 5-year questions on interviews. So 5 years ahead, what will make you say, yes, I did it?
So one of the things we want to do at AION Labs is help build up the industry in Israel. So what I want to see within 5 to 10 years from now is that we have built at least 3 to 5 great startups in Israel that have gone on to become mid-sized biotech companies with great assets, raised a lot of money, employing big teams, and actually being able to attract in capital and global pharma partners to come work with us here and build up the industry in the same way that we've built up the cyber industry here and the auto tech industry and pretty much every other industry here. And hopefully within those 3 to 5 great companies that have been built here, at least 1 or 2 of them will come out of AION Labs.
Please God, I'm sure it will be.
Inshallah.
Inshallah, exactly. So, Mati Gill, thank you so much for being our guest today, and I will definitely come and visit you in Rehovot.
Thank you.
Thank you.